Imagine this: a woman who once stood in the shadows, her voice barely a whisper, her dreams buried under the weight of someone else's expectations. A woman who was told she would never amount to anything more than a dutiful wife, a caretaker, a background character in someone else's story. Now, picture that same woman standing tall in a boardroom, commanding respect, her name etched on the door of a multi-million-dollar company. This is not just a story of transformation. This is a story of revenge, redemption, and the undeniable power of self-belief. But here's the twist: the man who once dismissed her, who thought she would never rise above her circumstances, is now begging for a second chance. And she's not sure he deserves it. If you've ever felt underestimated, undervalued, or invisible, this story is for you. If you've ever been told you're not enough, only to rise above and prove everyone wrong, you're going to want to hear this. Because today, we're diving into the journey of a woman who went from being a helpless wife to a powerful CEO, a journey so gripping, so full of twists and turns, that you won't be able to look away. And by the end of this video, you'll have the answer to the question that's been burning in your mind. Why does he regret letting her go? Let's rewind to the beginning. Meet Emily Carter, a name that once meant nothing to the world but now carries the weight of success, influence, and unshakable determination. 10 years ago, Emily was a different person. She was married to Daniel, a man who seemed to have it all: charm, ambition, and a thriving career. But behind closed doors, their marriage was far from perfect. Daniel was controlling, dismissive, and often made Emily feel like she was nothing more than an accessory to his life. Her dreams of starting her own business were laughed off, her ideas dismissed as cute but unrealistic. Emily, once a vibrant and ambitious woman, found herself shrinking, her light dimming with every passing day. But here's the thing about people like Emily: you can try to bury them. You can try to silence them, but you can't extinguish their fire. Not forever. One day, something inside her snapped. It wasn't a dramatic confrontation or a single moment of clarity. It was a quiet, unshakable decision to take back her life. She walked away from her marriage, leaving behind the safety of familiarity for the uncertainty of the unknown. And that decision? It changed everything. Fast forward to today, and Emily is the CEO of Lumina Enterprises, a company that's revolutionizing the tech industry. She's a force to be reckoned with, a woman who's not only shattered glass ceilings, but also rebuilt herself from the ground up. But success hasn't come without its challenges. Along the way, she's faced betrayal, heartbreak, and moments of self-doubt that would have broken a lesser person. Yet through it all, she's emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. And then there's Daniel. The man who once held all the power in their relationship is now a shadow of his former self. His career has stagnated, his confidence has crumbled, and he's haunted by the memory of the woman he let slip through his fingers. He's tried to move on, tried to convince himself that he's better off without her, but the truth is undeniable: he regrets letting her go. And now, he's desperate to win her back. But here's the question that's going to keep you hooked. Why does Daniel regret letting Emily go? Is it because he's finally realized her worth? Or is it because he can't stand to see her succeed without him? And more importantly, will Emily give him a second chance? Or will she walk away for good? As we dive deeper into this story, you're going to see sides of Emily and Daniel that will surprise you. You're going to witness the moments that defined their relationship, the choices that changed their lives, and the secrets that have been buried for years. This isn't just a story about love and loss, it's a story about power, identity, and the lengths we'll go to reclaim our lives. So grab a seat and get comfortable, because this is one story you won't want to miss. By the end of this video, you'll not only have the answers you're looking for, but you'll also walk away with a powerful reminder: no matter where you are in life, no matter how small or insignificant you may feel, you have the power to rewrite your story. Emily did it, and so can you. But before we get to the heart of the story, let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a situation where someone underestimated you? Where they made you feel like you were less than you are? If so, you're gonna relate to Emily on a level that's almost uncanny. Because her journey isn't just about revenge or success, it's about reclaiming your power and proving to yourself that you're capable of more than anyone ever thought possible. Now, let's take a closer look at Emily's transformation. How did she go from being a helpless wife to a powerful CEO? What were the defining moments that shaped her journey? And what role did Daniel play in her rise to the top? The answers to these questions are going to shock you, inspire you, and maybe even change the way you see your own life. But here's the thing. This story isn't just about Emily and Daniel. It's about you. It's about anyone who's ever felt stuck, anyone who's ever been told they're not good enough, anyone who's ever dreamed of something more. Because at its core, this is a story about resilience, about the power of believing in yourself even when no one else does. And if you stick with me until the end, you're going to walk away with more than just a satisfying conclusion. You're going to walk away with a renewed sense of purpose. So, are you ready to dive in? Are you ready to uncover the secrets, the struggles, and the triumphs that define Emily's journey? Are you ready to find out why Daniel regrets letting her go? Good! Because this is just the beginning. And trust me, you're not going to want to miss what happens next. But before we go any further, let me leave you with this. Emily's story is proof that no matter how far you fall, no matter how many times you're knocked down, you have the power to rise again. And sometimes, the greatest revenge is not in holding on to the past, but in building a future so bright that it outshines everything that came before. So, what do you think? Will Emily give Daniel a second chance, or will she walk away for good? The answer is coming, but not just yet. Because this story, it's far from over. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around to see how it all unfolds. To truly understand Emily's journey, we need to go back to where it all began, a small suburban town where dreams often took a backseat to practicality. Emily and Daniel met in their early 20s, a time when life seemed full of endless possibilities. Daniel was the golden boy, charismatic, ambitious, and destined for greatness. Emily, on the other hand, was the quiet girl with big dreams but little confidence to pursue them. Their relationship started like a fairy tale, with Daniel sweeping Emily off her feet, promising her a life of love and security. But as the years went by, the cracks began to show. Daniel's charm masked a controlling nature, and Emily's dreams of starting her own business were repeatedly dismissed as unrealistic or a waste of time. She found herself trapped in a cycle of self-doubt, her identity slowly eroding under the weight of Daniel's expectations. The turning point came on a seemingly ordinary day. Emily had been working on a business plan for months, pouring her heart and soul into a vision she believed in. When she finally mustered the courage to share it with Daniel, his response was crushing. "You're not cut out for this," he said, his tone dismissive. "Why don't you focus on something you're actually good at, like taking care of the house?" Those words cut deeper than any argument they'd ever had. For the first time, Emily saw their relationship for what it truly was, a cage. That night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, something inside her shifted. She realized that if she didn't take control of her life, no one else would. The next morning, she packed her bags and left, determined to build a future on her own terms. But starting over was anything but easy. Emily had no savings, no job, and no support system. She moved into a tiny apartment, took on odd jobs to make ends meet, and spent every spare moment working on her business plan. It was grueling, lonely work, but Emily refused to give up. She enrolled in online courses, networked tirelessly, and slowly began to piece together the foundation of what would eventually become Lumina Enterprises. Along the way, she met people who believed in her vision, mentors who saw her potential and encouraged her to keep going. For the first time in years, Emily felt alive. She was no longer the helpless wife who had been told she wasn't good enough. She was a woman with a purpose, a woman who was determined to prove herself. Meanwhile, Daniel's life took a very different turn. At first, he was convinced Emily would come crawling back. He couldn't imagine her surviving on her own, let alone thriving. But as the months turned into years, he began to notice changes not just in Emily, but in himself. Without her by his side, he felt a void he couldn't fill. His career, once his pride and joy, began to feel hollow. He started to question the choices he'd made, the person he'd become. And then, one day, he saw her. It was a photo in a business magazine, Emily standing confidently in front of her company's headquarters, her name emblazoned on the building. She looked radiant, powerful, and completely out of his reach. That moment was a wake-up call for Daniel, but it was also the beginning of a downward spiral. As Emily's star continued to rise, Daniel's life unraveled. He made a series of poor decisions at work, alienating colleagues and losing the respect of his peers. His attempts to move on romantically were half-hearted at best, as no one could measure up to the woman he'd let go. He became consumed by regret, replaying their past in his mind, wondering how things might have been different if he'd supported her instead of holding her back. But the more he tried to reach out to Emily, the more she seemed to distance herself. She wasn't interested in rehashing the past. She was too busy building her future. But Emily's journey wasn't without its challenges. As Lumina Enterprises grew, so did the pressures of leadership. She faced fierce competition, skeptical investors, and moments of self-doubt that threatened to derail everything she'd worked for. There were nights when she questioned whether she was cut out for this, whether she was just the helpless wife Daniel had always made her out to be. But every time she felt like giving up, she reminded herself of why she started to prove that she was capable of more, to show the world that she was more than someone's shadow. And then there were the secrets, the ones Emily had buried deep, the ones she thought she'd left behind. As her company gained prominence, whispers began to surface about her past. Rumors about her marriage, her struggles, and the real reason she'd left Daniel started to circulate. At first, Emily tried to ignore them, but they soon became impossible to avoid. Someone was digging into her life, trying to uncover the truth. But who? And why? Was it a rival company trying to tarnish her reputation? Or was it someone closer to home, someone with a personal vendetta? Emily didn't know, but she was determined to find out. Meanwhile, Daniel was grappling with his own demons. He'd hit rock bottom, losing his job and alienating the few friends he had left. Desperate for redemption, he reached out to Emily one last time, hoping to explain himself, to make amends. But Emily wasn't sure she was ready to face him. She'd worked too hard to rebuild her life, and she wasn't about to let anyone, especially Daniel, derail her progress. But as much as she tried to push him away, she couldn't shake the feeling that their story wasn't over. There was still unfinished business between them, secrets that needed to be uncovered, truths that needed to be faced. And then there was the mystery of the anonymous letters. Someone had been sending Emily cryptic messages, hinting at things only she and Daniel would know. The letters were unsettling, filled with vague threats and veiled accusations. At first, Emily dismissed them as the work of a jealous competitor, but as they continued to arrive, she began to wonder if they were connected to the rumors about her past. Was someone trying to sabotage her? Or was this a twisted attempt to bring her and Daniel back together? Emily didn't have the answers, but she knew one thing: she couldn't ignore the danger any longer. As the tension mounted, Emily found herself at a crossroads. She could continue to focus on her career, pushing aside the distractions and the drama. Or she could confront the past head-on, risking everything she'd built to uncover the truth. But the deeper she dug, the more she realized that the answers she was seeking might come at a cost. The line between friend and foe blurred, and Emily began to question who she could trust. Was Daniel truly remorseful, or was he just trying to manipulate her? And what about the mysterious figure behind the letters? Were they a threat, or were they trying to help her? The stakes were higher than ever, and the clock was ticking. Emily knew that whatever happened next would define not just her future, but her legacy. She had come too far to turn back now, but the road ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty. And as she stood on the precipice of a decision that could change everything, one question lingered in her mind. How far was she willing to go to protect the life she'd fought so hard to build? But before she could answer that question, there was one more twist. One more piece of the puzzle that would change everything. And it was coming from a direction she never saw coming. The story was far from over, and the next chapter was going to be the most explosive yet. So, what do you think? Will Emily uncover the truth? Will Daniel finally get the redemption he's seeking? Or will the secrets of the past destroy everything they've worked for? Stick around because the answers are coming, but not just yet. The best is yet to come. Just when Emily thought she had a handle on the chaos swirling around her, the unexpected happened. It started with a phone call, one that would turn her world upside down. The voice on the other end was calm but firm, delivering news that sent a chill down her spine. "We've found something," the private investigator she'd hired said. "Something you need to see." Emily's mind raced as she arranged to meet him, her thoughts a tangled web of fear and curiosity. What could he have uncovered that was so urgent? She had expected the investigation to reveal more about the anonymous letters or the rumors about her past, but nothing could have prepared her for what she was about to learn. When she arrived at the investigator's office, he handed her a file without a word. Inside were photographs, documents, and a series of emails that painted a picture Emily could barely comprehend. The anonymous letters weren't just random threats, they were part of a calculated plan to destabilize her. But the real shock came when she saw the name attached to the emails, someone she had trusted implicitly, someone who had been by her side through the toughest moments of her journey. It was Sarah, her longtime friend and business partner. The woman who had helped her build Lumina Enterprises from the ground up. The woman she had considered family was the one orchestrating the attacks. Emily felt a mix of betrayal and disbelief as she tried to make sense of it all. Why would Sarah do this? What could she possibly gain from tearing Emily down? As Emily dug deeper, she uncovered a web of lies and hidden agendas. Sarah had been quietly undermining her for months, leaking information to competitors, planting seeds of doubt among investors, and even feeding the media false stories about Emily's past. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. Sarah hadn't acted alone. She'd been working with someone from Emily's past, someone who had a personal vendetta against her. And when Emily saw the name, her heart sank. It was Daniel, the man she had once loved. The man who had dismissed her dreams, had teamed up with Sarah to destroy everything she had built. The betrayal cut deeper than anything she had ever experienced. But why? What could Daniel possibly hope to achieve by sabotaging her? As Emily pieced together the timeline, a chilling pattern emerged. Daniel's downward spiral had begun around the same time Lumina Enterprises started gaining traction. His career had faltered, his reputation had crumbled, and he had become consumed by jealousy and regret. Seeing Emily succeed where he had failed had been too much for him to bear. And so, he had reached out to Sarah, exploiting her own insecurities and resentments to turn her against Emily. Together, they had hatched a plan to bring her down, to make her feel the same helplessness and despair they had once inflicted on her. Emily was furious, but she was also determined. She wasn't the same woman who had walked away from her marriage all those years ago. She had fought too hard, sacrificed too much, to let anyone, especially Daniel and Sarah, destroy everything she had built. But confronting them wouldn't be easy. Sarah was still a key figure at Lumina Enterprises, with access to sensitive information and the trust of their team. And Daniel, despite his failures, was still a master manipulator, capable of twisting the truth to suit his narrative. Emily knew she had to tread carefully, but she also knew she couldn't let them win. As she began to strategize her next move, another bombshell dropped. The anonymous letters hadn't stopped. In fact, they had escalated, becoming more frequent and more threatening. But this time, there was a new twist. The letters weren't just targeting Emily. They were also targeting Daniel and Sarah. Someone else was pulling the strings, someone who knew all three of them intimately. The realization hit Emily like a ton of bricks. There was a fourth player in this game, someone who had been watching from the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But who? And what did they want? The stakes had never been higher. Emily was caught in a dangerous game of cat and mouse, with enemies on all sides and no one she could fully trust. The pressure was mounting, both professionally and personally. Investors were growing wary. Employees were starting to ask questions, and the media was circling like vultures. Emily knew she had to act fast, but every move she made seemed to play into the hands of her adversaries. She was walking a tightrope, with no safety net in sight. And then, just when she thought things couldn't get any worse, she received a message that changed everything. It was a single sentence typed in bold letters: "You think you know the truth, but you don't. Meet me, and I'll show you what really happened." The message was unsigned, but Emily had a sinking feeling she knew who it was from. The fourth player had finally revealed themselves, and they were ready to talk. But meeting them would be a risk, one that could either bring her the answers she needed or plunge her deeper into the chaos. Emily stood at a crossroads, her mind racing with possibilities. Should she confront Sarah and Daniel head-on, exposing their betrayal and risking a public scandal? Or should she follow the trail of the mysterious fourth player, hoping to uncover the truth before it was too late? The decision weighed heavily on her, but one thing was clear: the game was far from over. The next move she made could determine not just the fate of Lumina Enterprises, but her own future as well. As the tension reached a boiling point, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Every corner she turned, every decision she made felt like it was being orchestrated by someone else. The lines between friend and foe had blurred beyond recognition, and the truth seemed more elusive than ever. But Emily wasn't about to give up. She had come too far to let anyone, whether it was Daniel, Sarah, or the mysterious fourth player, take away everything she had worked for. The battle was far from over, and Emily was ready to fight. But as she prepared to make her next move, one question lingered in her mind: who could she really trust? The answer to that question would determine everything. And as the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, Emily realized that the truth was more shocking than she could have ever imagined. The climax was coming, and it was going to change everything. But for now, the story wasn't over. The stakes were higher than ever, and the next chapter was going to be the most explosive yet. So, what do you think? Will Emily uncover the truth? Will she be able to outmaneuver her enemies? Or will the secrets of the past destroy everything she's worked for? Stick around, because the answers are coming, but not just yet. The best is yet to come. Emily stood in the dimly lit parking garage, her heart pounding as she waited for the mysterious fourth player to reveal themselves. The air was thick with tension, every sound echoing ominously in the empty space. She had taken a leap of faith by coming here, but she knew there was no turning back. The message had been clear: meet me, and I'll show you what really happened. As the minutes ticked by, Emily's mind raced with possibilities. Who could it be? Someone from her past? A disgruntled employee? Or perhaps someone she had never even suspected? Just as she was about to second-guess her decision, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was someone she never expected: her estranged father, James. The sight of him left her speechless. James had been absent for most of her life, a ghost who had drifted in and out of her childhood without ever truly being present. He looked older, more worn, but there was a sharpness in his eyes that sent a shiver down her spine. "Emily," he said, his voice steady but tinged with regret. "I know you have questions, and I'm here to give you answers." Emily's mind reeled. What could her father possibly have to do with the chaos unfolding in her life? As he began to speak, the pieces of the puzzle started to fall into place. James had been watching her from afar, keeping tabs on her career and the people around her. He had known about Daniel and Sarah's betrayal long before Emily did, but he had stayed in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to intervene. But why? The answer was more complicated than Emily could have imagined. James had been involved in a series of shady business dealings years ago, and Daniel had been one of his proteges. When James's empire crumbled, Daniel had walked away unscathed, leaving James to take the fall. Over the years, James had harbored a deep resentment toward Daniel, but he had also felt a growing sense of pride in Emily's accomplishments. When he discovered that Daniel and Sarah were conspiring to destroy her, he knew he had to act. The anonymous letters, the cryptic messages, they had all been his way of warning her, of preparing her for the battle ahead. Emily was torn between anger and gratitude. She had spent years wondering why her father had abandoned her, why he had never been there when she needed him most. And now, here he was, stepping into her life at the most critical moment. But as much as she wanted to forgive him, she couldn't ignore the fact that he had let her face so much of this alone. "Why now?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Why didn't you come to me sooner?" James sighed, his shoulders heavy with the weight of his mistakes. "I thought I was protecting you," he said. "But I see now that I was wrong. That you are stronger than I ever gave you credit for. And you didn't need me to fight your battles. But I'm here now, and I'll do whatever it takes to help you." With her father's help, Emily devised a plan to expose Daniel and Sarah's betrayal. They gathered evidence, emails, financial records, and recorded conversations that left no room for doubt. But Emily knew that simply exposing them wasn't enough. She wanted to send a message not just to Daniel and Sarah, but to anyone who had ever doubted her. She called a press conference, standing tall in front of the cameras as she revealed the truth about their conspiracy. The room erupted in gasps and murmurs as she laid out the evidence, her voice steady and unwavering. Daniel and Sarah sat in stunned silence, their faces pale as they realized the game was up. But Emily wasn't done. She turned to Daniel, her eyes blazing with a mix of anger and triumph. "You thought you could break me," she said. "You thought I would crumble under the weight of your lies. But you underestimated me. And now, you'll see what happens when you try to take down someone who refuses to be defeated." The room erupted in applause, but Emily felt no joy, only a quiet sense of closure. She had fought for her dreams, for her future, and she had won. As the dust settled, Emily faced one final decision: what to do about her father. James had played a crucial role in helping her expose the truth, but their relationship was still fragile, built on years of absence and regret. Emily knew that rebuilding trust would take time, but she also knew that everyone deserved a second chance. She extended an olive branch, inviting him to be a part of her life not as a savior, but as a father. It was a small step, but it was a start. The story of Emily Carter, once a helpless wife, now a powerful CEO, became a sensation, inspiring millions around the world. Her journey was a testament to the power of resilience, self-belief, and the unshakable determination to rise above adversity. But it was also a reminder that success is never a solo journey. Along the way, Emily had learned to lean on the people who truly cared about her, to trust her instincts, and to never let anyone dim her light. And as for Daniel, he faded into obscurity, a cautionary tale of what happens when ego and jealousy consume you. Sarah, too, faced the consequences of her actions, losing not just her career but the friendship she had once cherished. But Emily didn't dwell on their downfall. She had bigger dreams to chase, a company to run, and a life to live on her own terms. The final twist came in the form of a letter, one that arrived on Emily's desk a few weeks later. It was from an anonymous source, but the message was clear: "You've proven that you're unstoppable. But the game isn't over. Stay vigilant." Emily smiled as she read it, a sense of calm washing over her. She had faced her demons, confronted her past, and emerged stronger than ever. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew she could handle them. Because Emily Carter wasn't just a CEO. She was a force of nature, a woman who had turned her pain into power and her struggles into strength. And as the camera panned out, showing Emily standing tall in her office, the words "once a helpless wife, now a powerful CEO" flashed across the screen, leaving the audience in awe of her journey. The story wasn't just about revenge or redemption. It was about the unbreakable spirit of a woman who refused to be defined by anyone but herself. And that, more than anything, was a story worth telling. So, what do you think? Did Emily's journey inspire you? Did the twists and turns keep you on the edge of your seat? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of resilience, triumph, and the power of believing in yourself. Because if there's one thing Emily's story teaches us, it's this: no matter how far you fall, you have the power to rise again. And sometimes, the greatest victory is simply refusing to give up.